Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parujikacharya Ashtotar Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parujikacharya Ashtotar Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Grantaraj srimadbhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jai Mudiriyet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the Goddess of Learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta prayesha badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatyuttama shloke bhakti bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental verses, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 15th day of May 2019 in SanDiego, which is also the Blessed Rukmini Dwadashi Day, we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We're in Canto 4, the creation of the fourth order, Chapter 12, Dhruva Maharaj goes back to Godhead. Text number 31. Tada dundubhyo nedur Mridanga panabanadaya Gandharva mukhya prajagu Petu kusuma vrishtayaha Tadadundubayo nedur Mridanga panabadadayaha Gandharva mukhya prajagu Petu kusuma vrishtayaha Tadadundubayo nedur Mridanga panabadayaha Gandharva mukhya prajagu Petu kusuma vrishtayaha Tadadundubayo nedur Mridanga panabadayaha Gandharva mukhya prajagu Petu kusuma vrishtayaha Tadadundubayo nedur Mridanga panabadayaha Pamukhya prajagu Petu kusuma vrishtayaha Tadadundubayo nedur Mridanga panabadayaha Gandharva mukhya prajagu Petu kusuma vrishtayaha Dravida prabhu Tadadundubayo nedur Mridanga panabadayaha Dharma mukhya prajagu Petu kusuma vrishtayaha Tadadundubayo nedur Mridanga panabadayaha Gandharva mukhya prajagu Kusuma vrishtayaha Tada. At that time, Dundubayaha, kettle drums, Neduhu, resounded. Mridanga drums. Panava, small drums. Adiyaha, etc. Gandharva mukhyaha, the chief residents of Gandharva Loka. Prajaguhu, sang. Petuhu, showered. Kusuma, flowers. Vrishtayaha, like rains. Okay. Translation. At that time, drums and kettle drums resounded from the sky. The chief Gandharvas began to sing, and other demigods showered flowers like torrents of rain upon Dhruva Maharaj. So before we read the next verse, this one has no commentary. What's the occasion? Why are they so excited? Huh? Yeah, he just mounted the airplane, putting his foot on the head of death. And he's on his way back. So it's a glorious occasion, and there's all this celebration going on. Okay, I'll read the next one myself, I guess. Oh, some of you have devices. Okay. Sachasva lokam arokshyam Sunitim jananim dhruvaha Anvasmarad agam hitva Dinam yasye tvivishtapam. Dhruva was seated in the transcendental airplane, which was just about to start. When he remembered his poor mother, Suniti, he thought to himself, how shall I go alone to the Vaikuntha planet and leave behind my poor mother? Purport. Dhruva had a feeling of obligation to his mother, Suniti. It was Suniti who had given him the clue which had now enabled him to be personally carried to the Vaikuntha planet by the associates of Lord Vishnu. He now remembered her and wanted to take her with him. Actually, Dhruva Maharaj's mother, Suniti, was his Pata Padarshaka Guru. What's the other name for that? Vartma. Pata and Vartma are synonyms. Pata Padarshaka Guru means, quote, the guru or the spiritual master who shows the way. Such a guru is sometimes called the Shiksha Guru. Although Narada Muni was his Diksha Guru, initiating spiritual master, Suniti, his mother, was the first who gave him instruction on how to achieve the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is the duty of the Shiksha Guru or Diksha Guru to instruct the disciple in the right way, and it depends on the disciple to execute the process. According to Shastra conjunctions, there is no difference between the Shiksha Guru and Diksha Guru, and generally the Shiksha Guru later on becomes the Diksha Guru. Suniti, however, being a woman, and specifically his mother, could not become Dhruva Maharaj's Diksha Guru. Still, he was not less obliged to Suniti. There was no question of carrying Narada Muni to Vaikuntha Loka, but Dhruva Maharaj thought of his mother. Whatever plan the Supreme Personality of Godhead contemplates immediately fructifies. Similarly, a devotee who is completely dependent on the Supreme Lord can also fulfill his wishes, the devotee's wishes, by the grace of the Lord. The Lord fulfills his own wishes independently. It's a pronoun problem here. The Lord fulfills his own wishes independently, but a devotee fulfills his own wishes simply by being dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, as soon as Dhruva Maharaj thought of his poor mother, he was assured by the associates of Vishnu that Suniti was also going to Vaikuntha Loka in another plane. Dhruva Maharaj had thought that he was going alone to Vaikuntha, leaving behind his mother, which was not very auspicious, because people would criticize him for going alone to Vaikuntha Loka and not carrying with him Suniti, who had given him so much. But Dhruva also considered that he was not personally the Supreme. Therefore, if Krishna fulfilled his desires, only then would it be possible. Krishna could immediately understand his mind, and Krishna told Dhruva that his mother was also going with him. This incident proves that a pure devotee like Dhruva Maharaj can fulfill all his desires. By the grace of the Lord, he becomes exactly like the Lord, and thus whenever he thinks of anything, his wish is immediately fulfilled. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Shri Parampara. Dhammarakama Prabhu, please come over here. We got the whole weight of everything over on here, and otherwise I'm just going to give him the class. Come over here and sit in this middle. That's more balanced. Thank you. So we're going to leave a little time at the end to read a little about Rukmini and how she was kidnapped by Krishna. So this is all very wonderful. Dhruva Maharaj is on his way back to Godhead. The plane has come. Sunanda and Nanda have personally come in the airplane to get him. And he has, death could hold no fear for him. He stepped over the head of death onto the plane. And now we're hearing about how he's actually going. So first thing is there's a big musical concert going on. There's kettle drums and mridangas and other kinds of drums are playing, and the Gandharvas are singing, and the flowers are coming down. This is, we find many of these instances in Krishna's Leela also, where he kills a demon, and the flowers are coming down, and drums are being playing, and oftentimes dancing is going on. So it's a very glorious event being celebrated in the heavenly planets and on the earthly planet. And then there's this wonderful little pastime here of Dhruva worrying about his mother. And this is also a very nice sign of his Vaishnava heart, that the Vaishnava doesn't think of just going back to Godhead himself or getting liberation and achieving his own happiness. This was very nicely expressed by, who remembers, classic, Prahlad. In these famous verses, Prabhupada would quote often, especially one of them, near the end of his prayers to Nrsingadev, he's already been saved. He's offered all these wonderful prayers full of philosophy and bhakti. And near the end of those prayers, he says something quite amazing. First he says, Naivod vijay padadorotya vaitaranyas tvadvi yagayana mahamata magna chitta. I am not Udvaja. This word Udvaja appears again and again. You remember even in Prahlad's instructions to his father, the first prayer. What does he say? A first instruction. Tat sarmanye sudavarya dehinam sadasam udvignadiyam. Udvignadiyam is the same word, udvijate. Disturbed. He says, I'm not at all disturbed. I'm not worried. I'm not in any anxiety. Because I'm with you all the time and you are across the ocean of Vaitarani. You're already in the spiritual world. There's this, a river Vaitarani, which runs between the material and spiritual world. And you're on the other side, and I'm with you all the time because any time, any place, I can chant your glories and dive into an ocean of nectar. So how can there be any anxiety or suffering for me? But then he says, Shochetato, I am lamenting. Why is Prahlad lamenting? I thought he just said that he's completely free of lamentation. Shochetato vimukachetasa indriyarta maya sukhaya badamudvito vimudha. So, indriyarta, this word arta comes in again, because in nate vadu svarta katimi vishnam. Arta means your goal in life, in this context. So he says, but I'm lamenting for those fools who have turned their face away from you. In other words, all of the conditioned souls who have completely forgotten about you. And what are they doing? They're trying to enjoy Maya Sukhaya. Maya Sukhaya is a nice little phrase to remember. Illusory happiness, sense gratification. And Bodhamudmahito, bearing a great burden of everything it takes to enjoy these little drops and little instances of material happiness. He's lamenting for them. In other words, he's empathetic, sympathetic, compassionate toward them. This is a proof of his Vaishnav heart. Padadukka Dukki is characterized as, I think, Sanatan, was it Raghunath, is described that way. About Sanatan. Padadukka Dukki is very simply, Pada means the other, Dukkha means suffering, Dukki. The Vaishnava is feeling unhappy at others' unhappiness. And that's the whole impetus for preaching. There's no other impetus for that, except simply to give the great treasure that you're experiencing to the unfortunate souls, understanding that they have absolutely no other way to relieve the misery that they're in. They may be look like they're happy and satisfied and peaceful for some time, but we know from the Shastra, and also after living in the world for a while from your own experience, that there's really no lasting happiness here and lasting peace. Where it's under threat at every moment. Padam padam ad vipadam. Who can translate that? Dhamma, you've heard this phrase before. Padam padam. Yeah, vipadam. What's the vipadam? Danger. Danger. There's danger at every step. So only by taking shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, samashataye padabalavam, can one be securely on the boat to go across the ocean of birth and death, which is full of all these, in the words of, is it Pritu? Yeah, Pritu. No, I'm sorry. Dhruva, actually. Full of blazing fire-like dangers. Dhruva Maharaj prays when he sees Vishnu. He says, let me have the association of those. This is my prayer to you. Forget about the kingdom. I feel like that's as important as dust to me, as broken glass. I don't care about that. But what I do want, I ardently want from you, is the blessing to always have the association of your great devotees in whose heart the river of bhakti is flowing like a powerful river. Bhakti mohu bhavahatam trahime prasango. And I don't just want to have some acquaintance with them. I want prasanga. Prasanga. Sangha means association. Prasanga means intense, meaningful association. You know, hearing, sharing, crying together, serving together. This is prasanga. Why? Because by Yenanda Solbanam Aruvasanam Bhavavdim, by their association, I'll be able to cross over this ocean of blazing fire-like dangers because I'm becoming mad to hear your nectarian glories. In other words, only in the association of pure devotees can you really hear Krishna Katha in its full power and glory, which is realized and with feeling. That's the whole idea. So, That's Prahlad himself saying that. And the devotee, just like here Prahlad is showing, well, how can I leave my mother? You know? She's the one who probably gave me the clue. You remember the pastime. He's trying to get on the lap of his father. Simple young boy, you know, and his brother's there, his half-brother. And his stepmother, Suruchi, forbids. No, you'll have to, she says something, to pray to God. In order to take birth from my womb, then you can get on, you know, the lap. So she wants her son to be the heir, you know, to be favored by the king. And Uttanapada, to his everlasting regret, didn't say anything. He didn't protest and, you know, put her in her place. So so Dhruva was crestfallen, heartbroken from that. So what does he do? He goes off to his mother. She's in some old corner of the palace. She's not so favored. And I like to point out, I don't think you were here, the names are so important, you know. Like I just thought, forgive me, just an aside, because I was thinking of the kidnapping of Rukmini. And then there's all these demons that you know. Now I think one of them was Dantavakra. He wasn't there, but somehow I thought of Dantavakra. Now what does Dantavakra mean? I think it means crooked teeth. Isn't it? Trivakra, which is born and bent in three places, bent teeth. Anyway, so what does Suniti and Suruchi mean? Suruchi means very beautiful, you know, very beautiful figure and everything, that attracting the mind of the king. Suniti means extremely virtuous. Niti is the morality, you know. So she wasn't so favored, but she was, you know, of course, welcomed her son, and after Suruchi gave him the instruction, you know, take birth by my womb, you have to find God, pray to God. So then it came to Suniti, and she says, well, what can I do? I'm not so favored, I can't really help you. But actually, Suruchi was right. You need to find God. And then, I can't find this part, but Prabhupada always tells the story this way. And then, so where am I going to find God? He said, well, I've heard that the great sages and yogis, they find him in the forest. You know, so you go into the forest, you know. So he goes toward the forest. You know, and that's that whole pastime occurs. He meets Narada Muni, eventually takes up the process. So without that instruction from Suniti, he would have been lost. She gave him the Vartma Pradashika, showed him the path of Pata Pradashika. And when you think about it, each one of us, except for Dravida prabhu, who was born into the tradition. Did you know that? Was it your great-grandfather, is Bhaktivinoda Thakur? I had no idea. Or related to him, right? So, but each one of us had a Vartma Pradashika guru. Now, that person may have just given us a book, an invitation to the temple, something to get our attention onto the path that brought us into the association, and we become serious. So that person we should revere. We should thank, you know, and try to do some service, you know. And so that's what's happening here with Dhruva. He's concerned about Suniti, and then there's this whole aspect here where, because he desired it, and he's such an exalted devotee, Krishna arranged it. I mean, it was already happening. But the point Barbara is making here is that Krishna fulfills the desires of his pure devotees. And I'm just, as I'm reading this, I'm thinking of Prabhupada, obviously, of his strong desire. I've just been rereading the Lilamrita. It's such a treasure house. You know, all the details of Prabhupada's struggles in India. He's, you know, just to publish that little, 4-page Back to Godhead magazine with a newsprint practically, you know. He had no money, you know. It was either breakfast or print the BTG, you know. And the people who knew him then just said somehow he was so determined to print that paper, because that was at that time how he was fulfilling the order of his spiritual master, to preach in English. Tried so hard to start, you know. Then the League of Devotees came. And you see, you know, and from this perspective, because at the League of Devotees he was going strong, he was making headway, he had some followers, he even had a disciple, Acharya Prabhakar, his first disciple. And then Krishna took it away from him. You know, he didn't want to lose that spot, but there was the governor's wife was into ladies' auxiliary or something, and he lost it. Now what? You know, back on the street, back to little Vrindavan, and go to Bombay, somehow this way, that way. I've just been reading about the effort. He got some connection with some meeting was going to happen in Japan, spiritual meeting, and they wanted him to come. And then you come and we'll pay food and lodging. Don't worry about that. He wrote the whole book, The Light of the Bhagavat, on that basis. So many lessons coming, from the different chapter 20 of the 10th canto. But he couldn't raise the airfare. There was no, to fly. He had to fly to Japan. It was impossible, so that fell through. All these things are falling through, but he's not giving up. He's holding on to that desire and instruction of his spiritual master. And finally, it kind of fructifies in sannyas. He's got to take sannyas, So he's just taken sannyas, and now he's got a different status in society. He can do so many things, but still, he's got no money. He's got no. So he's getting close to getting with Sumarti Maharaji and getting that famous free passage. But the point is that Prabhupada had this desire, which was his spiritual master's desire, and a whole parampara, to spread Krishna consciousness as widely as possible outside of India. And he's speaking from experience here. That desire was fulfilled by Krishna in the most remarkable, amazing way, against all odds, impossible, It would look impossible until it actually happened. So we this last paragraph here, whatever plan the Lord contemplates immediately fructifies. Similarly, a devotee who is completely dependent on the Lord can also fulfill his wishes by the grace of the Lord. That's Prabhupada speaking from experience, and he's giving us encouragement also, the readers, that if you simply take up this process and you fan that desire to be Krishna conscious, Krishna will make so many arrangements so that you can do that. This whole movement is a facility for us, those who are outside of India. Of course, now India is booming even more. But the point is, started that way, so that those who had absolutely no clue about Krishna, but there was some desire to have something else. The materialism was unsatisfying. I mean, I remember from those days, the 60s and all of the searching, young people streaming to San Francisco in the 1967 summer, looking for something else than just living in the suburbs, 9 to 5, and the whole thing. There was a ferment of searching, and that was good. That was fertile ground for Krishna, for the seeds of bhakti to be planted, because it's a revolution right in the first canto. These words bring about a revolution in the misguided civilization, and that's what was going on, a very revolutionary time. So Krishna arranged, just the timing perfectly, and the grant. If he had come earlier or later, it might not have been as fruitful or looked like that. So the main thing that the two themes here are very important for us. One is to cultivate that empathy with people who haven't tasted Krishna consciousness. First of all, to be Krishna conscious, be strict in our sadhana, so that we can also experience the benefits, even the preliminary benefits of Krishna consciousness. The peacefulness, the freedom from being gripped by so many unwanted desires, It doesn't have to be drugs, obvious things like that you can give up. But all the material desires that are latent or that we're aspiring to, they're all like ropes, as Prahlad describes in another verse, like ropes binding us to this world. That's an often used analogy. And that gives us so much anxiety. You can't fulfill the desires, or you fulfill them and they turn into, suffering and pain because you took some drug you shouldn't have taken or whatever. There's all of it. If you're free of that and you're getting your pleasure from serving Krishna, chanting the holy name associated with devotees, it's all wholesome. There's no bad reaction. What's the bad reaction? It's all auspicious reactions. So that in itself, even what we experience, should inspire us to give that to others, so that they can also be relieved of their anxiety and start on the path back to Godhead. So that's one thing that's central to Lord Chaitanya's movement, is the sense of compassion, empathy toward others, the conditioned souls. And that's the impetus to preach, the book distribution, taking the holy name out. And when you do that, like Harinam Sankirtan. In and itself, even if you're doing it in the temple, far from the street, nobody's hearing it but the group of devotees. And there's ecstasy there. But there's more mercy and ecstasy actually when you take it out on the street. And you have the sense, oh, people are hearing this for the first time. You know from the Shastra that if they hear the holy name once, what to speak of chant it once, it's so auspicious, so much karma is removed. They're starting on their way back to God, and So, what's to prevent you from being enthusiastic to give it out? Only our own, lethargy or illusion, mode of ignorance. So this is the essence of Lord Chaitanya's movement. There's a famous verse, Ayari Dake Tarikar Krishna Upadesh Amara Gyahar Tare Desh. Sorry, I get the Bengali, forgive me. Lord Chaitanya spoke this verse to, was it Kurma Brahman, I think, right? Who wanted to go with him. Says, no, you could stay here in your family. But whoever you meet, whoever you see, you give them the instruction of Krishna, of Krishna's instruction in Bhagavad Gita. In other words, you give them Krishna consciousness. Whoever you see, whoever you meet. And thus, on my order, you become a guru and deliver this land. And in that purport and subsequent purports is very important instruction. I'll tell you, there's a little editing pastime from this. If you allow me, maybe I can remember it. In the purport, that purport, the next purport, Prabhupada is quoting Bhaktisiddhanta, although he doesn't quote him by name, but if you get into the Bengali commentary, you see he's quoting. And the way it was first edited, there was if I can show you the transcript sometime if you're interested. There was something written in between the lines by the editor, probably Pradyumna. And the way it sounded is that how does it go? One should not fail to preach, be a guru. One should not think, it's best not to take any disciples. This is what came out. It's best not to take. You remember that one? No. Yeah. Best not to take any disciples. What was actually said is that one should not think, I'm such an advanced devotee, so therefore I better not take any disciples because it'll affect my bhajan. Close quote. One should not think like that. In other words, and the rest of the purport, by actually preaching and taking disciples, you'll get protection for your sadhana. Your sadhana, your conscience will be protected and enlivened. So that even if you feel, I need to take sannyas. No, even in your household life, if you're preaching, just like Prabhupada did, and especially if you can get your whole family to preach, you'll be enlivened in Krishna. You'll advance in Krishna consciousness because you'll get more mercy from the Lord for the preaching activity, and that itself will help you to stay Krishna conscious. And the point is, Prabhupada experienced that himself. You remember when he first met Bhaktisiddhanta, he was lamenting, all of your disciples, the many sannyasis, brahmacharis, they're doing such direct service for you. What can I do? I'm not a householder, Well, he found a way to serve. He, became very enlivened, helping them go to Yamat. He would give donations. He himself would preach, and he kept doing that in his household life. But another blessing, just like the League of Devotees, in the long range, we're happy that the Ladies Auxiliary took it over, because that brought Prabhupada to America. If he had succeeded in the League of Devotees, he would be sitting there in India and sending books to the West or something. So he had his wife, who, as he said, was a very pious lady, very chaste, but she wasn't into preaching at all. She wasn't into, in fact, to the degree where she actually sold Prabhupada's Bhagavatam to get tea physics. I'm sorry? I didn't know that. Anyway, it was he tried to get her and others, and even there was said in the Lilamrita, which I had forgotten, when his Bhagavad Gita manuscript was disappeared, And it says right there that he suspected that one of his sons may have done it. You know. Anyway, it wasn't, you know, the household. He tried and tried and tried for years and years, but his business failed. The marriage was not favorable, and finally, Prabhupada just left. He took vanaprastha. It was several years before he took sannyas. But he left it because the preaching had become everything. His following that instruction, you know, and he kept following it. So it's an important instruction for all of us, is that the movement lives and breathes on the preaching spirit, and that's how it grows, and that's how every one of us, except maybe Ram, was born into it, has come in touch with Krishna. So that's a sign of this mood of Dhruva has. The feeling, you say, well, what about the others? I'm experiencing, you know, the ultimate happiness going back to Godhead. What about my mother, who was so responsible? And it was shown, was she ahead of him or behind? I forget, plane behind, I think. Anyway, she was in her own plane coming, so his mind was at ease. Any comments on these before we read about Rukmini? Okay. So, I've marked this. I did a little homework. So this a very delightful chapter. Krishna kidnaps Rukmini. You know, that's actually how you pronounce it. No one will ever get it. I've given up. It's going to be Rukmini till I go back to God, I know. Rukmini was his first wife, goddess of fortune, and she had just heard about him. You know, just like the Brahmins' wives heard about him, became completely infatuated, in love with him. Rukmini heard about it, and but she was a daughter of King. What was it? I'm sorry. Brother of Rukmi, sister of Rukmi, but who was her father? Videha, something. Oh, yeah, capital of Vidarbha. Anyway, her father and others wanted to give her to Krishna, Bhishmaka. But the brother, Rukmi, she had several brothers, and Rukmi was the eldest, and he was adamant that she was going to marry Shishupal. And Shishupal was, he was an arch enemy of Krishna. His whole life was dedicated to insulting Krishna. He had a certain number of insults, and then he would be killed, but he was constantly insulted. And so there was a whole bunch of them, and then Jarasan was there, and other Shishupal's father, Dhamaghosh, had come because they knew that Krishna might want to come. You know. Yes, Shishupal, and who's the other one? Dantavakra. There's Dantavakra. That's why I thought of Dantavakra. Anyway, so the situation is that the marriage is impending, and the father is at the control of the son, just like Dhritarashtra was under the control of Duryodhana. So he was surrendering to it, you know. And all these people started coming to the city and arriving, and he was, greeting them well. But Rukmini was desperate, so she gave a Brahmin a message, a letter in Prabhupada, to carry to Krishna in Dwarka. She's in Vidarbha. Anyway, so it's quite a distance away. So she gave him a letter, and in this letter, I remember memorizing the first line. It's so wonderful. First verse. So here's the letter. The Brahmin arrives, offers obeisance to Krishna, and then Krishna honors him, and then, why have you come? I've come with a message from Rukmini. He starts reading the letter. First words, Shudva gunan bhuvana sundara shunvatante nirvishikana bevadai hadaton gatapam tvai sandarshayan vashayatna rupam drisham drishamatam akilartadabam tvai yachuta vishati chittamapattapangme. So she's revealing her heart. I have simply heard, entering my ears, the descriptions of your qualities and beauty. And Gunan Bhuvana Sundara, almost beautiful in all the universe. They've entered my ears, and all my physical miseries are gone. I've transcended any suffering. Certainly, one who sees your form has all of the goals of seeing achieved. In other words, there's nothing more to see. Rupam drisham drishamatam. I must admit, O Achyuta, that without shame, my consciousness has entered into you. I can't forget you. And then she goes on and she explains, "You please come right away and kidnap me because, they're about to give me away in marriage." So what does Krishna do? He's responding to the Brahmin. He says, "Yes, I also sometimes can't sleep at night thinking about her." So he's completely, so immediately he calls for Dwaraka to get the horses, his 4 horses. They're named there. The names come from the Padma Purana. There must be some commentary part, but it's in the Krishna book. And along with the Brahmin, he puts them on the chariot, and off they go. It's a long ride, and there's only tomorrow morning, so they're going all night, and very quickly, and he arrives just in time. So, meanwhile, Rukmini doesn't know, did he get the letter? There's no internet, there's no telephones. And so she's worried. And finally, the Brahmin arrives and says, he's beaming, and he says, the Lord is, Krishna has come, he's waiting for you. She didn't know what to do, she was so thankful. She had nothing to give him, she just offered obeisances. So then, in order to avoid a bloodbath for her relatives, this is very important, this comes up again. She explains that before the marriage, they go out traditionally to a little temple of Durga. And there's some ceremonies there, the old ladies come and her girlfriends will be there and everything. So on the way back, my family won't be there, the greater family. So that's when you can kidnap me. She's got it all planned out. So as she comes out of the temple, she's looking around with Krishna there, it's Krishna there. And all of the princes, all of the kings and princes, Jarasandha and others, they're on their horses, and they see her beauty, and they all faint and fall off the horses. That's what actually happens. So I'm going to read this. This is at the very end of the chapter, which is chapter 53. Krishna kidnaps Rukmini. It gives a beautiful description. All the princes and visitors who came to Kundina, that's another name for the city, for the marriage had assembled outside the temple to see Rukmini. The princes were especially eager to see her because they all actually thought that they would have Rukmini as their wife. So these are demons after all, so they're all thinking, well, maybe I can get her. Struck with wonder upon seeing Rukmini, they thought she was especially manufactured by the Creator to bewilder all the great chivalrous princes. Her body was well constructed, the middle portion being very thin. Her high hips were adorned with a jeweled locket. She had pink lips, and the beauty of her face was enhanced by her slightly scattered hair and by different kinds of earrings. The bodily luster and beauty of Rukmini appeared as if painted by an artist, perfectly presenting beauty following the descriptions of great poets. Rukmini's breasts are described as being somewhat high, indicating that she was just a youth, not more than 13 or 14 years old. Her beauty was specifically intended to attract the attention of Krishna. Although the princess gazed upon her beautiful features, she was not at all proud. Her eyes moved restlessly, and when she smiled very simply, like an innocent girl, her teeth appeared just like jasmine buds. Very white, the white jasmine buds. Expecting Krishna to take her away at any moment, she proceeded slowly toward her home. Her legs moved just like a full-grown swan, and her ankle bells tinkled mildly. The chivalrous princes, assembled there, were so overwhelmed by Rukmini's beauty that they became almost unconscious and fell from their horses and elephants. Basically, they fainted and fell off their horses and elephants. Full of lust, they hopelessly desired Rukmini's hand, comparing their own beauty to hers. Srimati Rukmini, however, was not interested in any of them. In her heart, she was simply expecting Krishna to come and carry her away. As she was adjusting the ornaments on a finger of her left hand, she happened to look upon the princes, and suddenly saw that Krishna was present among them. Although Rukmini had never before seen Krishna, she just heard of him. She was always thinking of him. Thus she had no difficulty recognizing him among the princely order. Krishna, unconcerned with the other princes, immediately took the opportunity to place Rukmini on his chariot, marked by a flag bearing an image of Garuda. He then proceeded slowly, without fear, taking Rukmini away exactly as a lion takes a deer from amidst of the jackals. Meanwhile, Balaram appeared on the scene with the soldiers of the Yadu dynasty. He heard Krishna went alone with one Brahmin, to do it. So he said, I better take an army. So he had a whole army with him. Jarasandha, who had many times experienced defeat by Krishna, roared, "How is this? Krishna is taking Rukmini away from us without opposition? What's the use of our being chivalrous fighters with arrows? My dear princess, just look. We are losing our reputation. He's just like a jackal taking booty from a lion. He's just the opposite, actually. And that's the end of the chapter. 53, Krishna, Krishna. Then there's a battle. Guess who wins? And and they're all defeated. And after all, they're fighting for Shishupal, so they fight a little bit and then they give up. Said, sorry, buddy, goodbye. So Shishupal, he was black. His face is black. Rukmini, Rukma, he's super angry. He takes a vow. I'm going to defeat Krishna, or I won't come back to the city. So he goes out with his little army, and then he shows up. So Krishna doesn't kill him. After all, it's his brother-in-law. But he's getting close to doing it. He breaks all the arrows that he has, his bow, the chariot, everything. And Rukmini really is helpless. And but Rukmini is in great anxiety that her brother is going to be killed. So instead, he just arrests him and disfigures his hair, cuts off half of his hair and mustache. So he's shamed. The shame itself is worse than death. So interesting enough, Balaram comes on the scene, and he starts chastising Krishna. So what are you doing? This is our brother-in-law. You shouldn't do this. Then he speaks to Rukmini, says, well, these things sometimes happen, so you shouldn't blame Krishna. Then he goes back to Krishna, what do you do? He goes back and forth like that. And in this way, then they leave Rukmi, and he gets free, and he builds a little town right there. You can't go back to the town, the city, because he vowed not to. So later on, you remember what happens at the marriage of Usha and Aniruddha? Yeah. It's married. Aniruddha's getting married. And he invites everyone, and they play dice. The Kshatriyas play dice. It's actually like a Parcheesi game. Gopi Varna told me. But they throw, and then they move pieces. So there's a big gambling match, and Rukmi thinks, we'll get the better of Balaram, we'll cheat him, And there's someone advising him. And he makes a big mistake, and he tries to cheat Balaram, and finally Balaram gets angry. This is a classic Balaram. He's building, he's not acting, and then suddenly he explodes. Bam! He crushes Rukmi's head, and there was someone who was smiling. His friend got his teeth knocked out. The king of Kalinga, These famous scenes from Krishna. Because it's interesting that when Balaram was chastising Krishna for going after Rukmi, but then he himself eventually. Anyway, it's a wonderful story, and there's more about Krishna's relation with Rukmini than any other queen. Actually, there's this whole chapter on there. I think that was the original, the kidnapping, No, not at that point. Okay, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.